Last month a freelance analyst in Chicago named Rachel uploaded a messy Excel file to ChatGPT's Advanced Data Analysis. 14 columns of sales data, inconsistent formatting, 3 years of quarterly figures from a mid-sized retail chain. 47 minutes later she had a complete strategic analysis with visualizations, trend projections, and actionable recommendations. She sent it to the client. They paid her $2,200. The entire thing cost her $20 in subscription fees and less than an hour of her time. And here is the part that should make you uncomfortable: she is not an analyst. She is a former English teacher who learned to use this tool 6 weeks ago. Welcome back to Zero Index. What I am about to show you is not a productivity hack. It is a fundamental repricing of knowledge work that is happening right now, and most people have not realized what it means for them yet. So let me be precise about what we are actually talking about here. ChatGPT's Advanced Data Analysis, which OpenAI originally called Code Interpreter, is not just a chatbot that can read spreadsheets. It is a full Python execution environment running inside the conversation. You upload a file, it writes code to analyze that file, executes the code, shows you the output, and then explains what it found in plain language. Most people treat it like a fancy calculator. They upload a spreadsheet and ask simple questions like what is my total revenue or show me my top 10 customers. And yes, it can do that. But they are missing something much bigger. When I started testing this properly about 2 months ago, I realized that the gap between what this tool can do and what people are asking it to do is enormous. And I will come back to why that gap exists because it explains something important about how consulting firms have operated for decades. Here is what the tool is actually capable of. I uploaded a dataset from a real company, anonymized of course, with 18 months of transaction data. About 40,000 rows. In a single conversation, Advanced Data Analysis cleaned the data, identified and handled missing values, created time series decompositions to separate trend from seasonality, ran correlation analyses between marketing spend and revenue, built predictive models for the next 2 quarters, generated publication-ready visualizations, and wrote executive summaries explaining each finding in business language. The entire process took about 90 minutes of back and forth. I asked questions, it ran analyses, I asked follow-up questions, it refined the approach. By the end I had what would generously be described as a junior consultant's first draft, except it was better formatted, more thorough, and cost me nothing beyond my existing subscription. And that is when I started wondering what exactly consulting firms are charging for. Let me give you some numbers because I think most people do not understand the economics here. A typical data analysis project from a mid-tier consulting firm, not McKinsey, just a respectable regional firm, runs somewhere between $15,000 and $40,000 depending on scope. That covers about 2 to 4 weeks of work from a team that usually includes 1 senior consultant and 1 or 2 junior analysts. What do you actually get for that money? A clean dataset. Some statistical analysis. Visualizations. A written report with findings and recommendations. Maybe a presentation deck. And here is the part nobody wants to say out loud: for many standard analyses, maybe 70% of that work is now automatable. I talked to a senior consultant at a firm I will not name who told me something revealing. He said that most of their junior analyst work, the stuff they bill at $200 an hour, is essentially data cleaning and basic exploratory analysis. Running correlation matrices. Building standard visualizations. Summarizing findings in business language. The exact things that advanced data analysis does in minutes. Now I want to be careful here because there is a counterargument and it is partially valid. Consulting is not just analysis. It is framing the right questions, interpreting results in context, understanding organizational politics, presenting findings persuasively, and managing client relationships. Those things still require humans. But here is what is actually happening in the market right now. The premium that consulting firms charged for the analysis itself, the actual crunching of numbers, is collapsing. And most firms are not adjusting their pricing because their clients have not figured out yet that they could do this themselves. Which brings me to Rachel in Chicago and the question of who captures this value. What Rachel figured out is something I am calling a competence arbitrage. She recognized that there is a gap between what clients believe data analysis costs and what it actually costs now. And she is sitting in that gap, capturing the difference. Here is how her workflow actually operates. Client sends her raw data. She uploads it to Advanced Data Analysis with a detailed prompt that she has refined over dozens of projects. Something like analyze this sales data, identify key trends, segment by region and product category, build visualizations suitable for an executive presentation, and write findings in clear business language with specific recommendations. The AI does the heavy lifting. She then spends about an hour reviewing the output, checking for errors, adding context she knows about the client's industry, and formatting everything into a professional deliverable. She charges between $1,500 and $3,000 per project. Her actual time investment is 2 to 4 hours. Her effective hourly rate is somewhere between $500 and $1,000 an hour. And I need to stop here because most people get this completely wrong. They hear this and think she is scamming her clients. She is not. She is delivering exactly what they asked for, a professional analysis that helps them make better decisions. The fact that her production cost dropped dramatically does not change the value to the client. This is how markets work. The producer captures surplus until competition drives prices down. And right now, there is not much competition because most people have not figured out how to use these tools effectively. But that window is closing. I have been tracking freelance data analysis rates on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, and over the past 6 months average project prices have dropped about 18% while the number of people offering these services has increased by roughly 40%. The arbitrage opportunity is real, but it has a timer on it. So I decided to test this myself. Not just playing around with sample data, but actually trying to produce something a client would pay for. I got permission from a small e-commerce company to analyze their data. Nothing sensitive, just sales and traffic figures for the past 2 years. About 23,000 transactions across 4 product categories. My prompt strategy was different from what most people do. Instead of asking for analysis directly, I started by asking Advanced Data Analysis to examine the data structure and tell me what questions it could potentially answer. This gave me a menu of possibilities. Then I selected the most valuable questions: revenue trends, customer segmentation, seasonal patterns, and marketing attribution, and asked for each analysis separately with specific output formats. The results were genuinely impressive. The tool identified a seasonal pattern I had not noticed, showing that one product category spiked not during the obvious holiday season but in late January, probably due to New Year resolution buyers. It found that customers who purchased from 2 or more categories had a lifetime value roughly 3 times higher than single-category buyers. It generated visualizations that looked professional enough to put in front of a board. But here is where I found the limits, and this is important. When I asked for strategic recommendations, the AI gave me generic advice. Increase marketing spend during high-converting periods. Focus on cross-selling. Improve retention among high-value segments. Technically correct, but the kind of thing anyone could have said. The insight layer, understanding why these patterns exist, what organizational constraints affect implementation, how this company's specific situation changes the recommendations, that still required a human. And this is the answer to that open loop I left earlier about consulting firms. What they actually sell, at least the good ones, is not the analysis itself. It is the interpretation, the framing, and the credibility that comes from having done this hundreds of times before. The analysis was always just the raw material. What has changed is that the raw material is now nearly free. Which means anyone can play in this market if they bring something else to the table. I have been thinking about what separates Rachel from the thousands of people who have access to the same tool but are not making $2,200 reports. It is not technical skill. She does not know Python. She cannot write statistical formulas. She could not build these analyses manually if her life depended on it. What she has is prompt engineering combined with domain framing. She knows how to describe what good analysis looks like in language the AI can act on. And she has spent enough time understanding business problems that she can translate vague client requests into specific analytical questions. This is a different kind of expertise than we are used to valuing. We used to pay for the ability to do the work. Now we are paying for the ability to direct the work and evaluate whether the output is actually good. I talked to a data science manager at a Fortune 500 company who said something that stuck with me. She said they recently hired a junior analyst who could not code at all, but who consistently produced better insights than analysts with computer science degrees. When she dug into why, she found that this person spent most of their time thinking about what questions to ask and how to interpret results, not wrestling with syntax errors and library documentation. They had offloaded the mechanical work entirely and focused on the judgment layer. And this is where it gets uncomfortable for a lot of people. Because we have built entire educational systems and career paths around teaching the mechanical layer. Data analysis bootcamps. SQL certifications. Python courses. All of those skills still have value, but the premium is shrinking. The new premium is on the skill that sits above the tools. The ability to know what to build, not how to build it. Let me be direct about the redistribution that is happening here because I think people are not being honest about it. The winners, at least in this transition period, are generalists who can learn tools quickly and who have enough domain knowledge to frame good questions. People like Rachel. People who spent their careers understanding business problems rather than mastering technical implementations. The short-term losers are junior technical specialists. Entry-level data analysts. Recent bootcamp graduates who were sold on the idea that learning Python would guarantee them a career. The work they were trained to do is exactly the work that is being automated fastest. But I want to be careful here because I said short-term losers. What I have seen in previous technological shifts is that the people who get displaced first often end up in better positions later, if they adapt. The junior analysts who figure out how to become prompt engineers and AI-augmented consultants will have a massive advantage over those who try to compete with the tools on technical grounds. The companies that lose are the ones that built their business model on technical execution without strategic value. The offshore data processing firms. The low-end consulting shops that sold themselves on having SQL expertise. If your value proposition was we can crunch the numbers, you are about to have a very bad few years. The companies that win are the ones who are always selling strategy and insight, and who now have dramatically lower production costs for the analytical foundation. Here is what I keep coming back to. For about 4 decades we have been telling people that technical skills are job security. Learn to code. Get quantitative. Be the person who can work with data. And that was true, for a while, because those skills were scarce and necessary. What is happening now is not that technical skills have become worthless. It is that they have become commoditized. They are necessary but no longer sufficient. You still need to understand data, you still need to know what good analysis looks like, but you no longer need to be the one physically producing it. The value has moved up the stack. From execution to direction. From building to evaluating. From doing the work to knowing what work to do. And the $2,200 report that Rachel delivered? It was valuable because she understood what the client actually needed, framed the right questions, and packaged the output in a way they could act on. The AI did the middle part. But without her on either end, it would have just been a spreadsheet talking to itself. This is the new shape of knowledge work. Human judgment wrapped around machine execution. If you want to capture value in this transition, you have one job. Get better at the parts that still require you. If that is the kind of thing you want to think more about, subscribe. More coming soon.